Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're going to unpack one of the most fascinating and honestly misunderstood business models on the planet. We're diving into the hidden truth of airport economics to uncover exactly how these airport owners make their absolute billions, all without ever flying a single plane themselves. It's like this brilliant, invisible machine, and I promise you, once you see how it actually works, you'll literally never look at air travel the same way again. 250 rupees? Just think back to the last time you were sprinting to your gate, totally parched, and handed over this exact amount for a basic cup of coffee or a standard bottle of water. You know, the kind that tastes suspiciously like plain tap water. Remember that slight sting of annoyance? Yeah, we've all been there, paying 4 times the normal price for something incredibly basic just because we happen to be inside a terminal. So, it naturally leads to this question. Are you being robbed? I mean, it's so easy to look at the barista or the cashier at that terminal shop and think they're just price gouging you out of pure greed, right? And your frustration is completely valid. But I'm here to tell you that the reality is actually far more interesting. That ridiculously priced cup of coffee is just a tiny, visible gear in what is arguably the world's most clever and profitable business model. It's not a robbery. It is an absolute masterclass in economics. Okay, let's dive right into this. Section 1, Aeronautical Revenue. Now, this is the money that actually makes intuitive sense to us. It's the income generated directly from the airlines that use the facilities. First up, we've got landing fees. Every single time a massive Boeing or Airbus touches down on that runway, they're charged a fee. And this fee scales directly with the weight of the aircraft. So heavier plane, higher charge. Then we have parking fees. Just like you'd pay to park your car in a city lot, airlines pay hourly rent to park their multi-million-dollar planes at the gates. And finally, there's the passenger tax. Let's hone in on that last point for a second, because it directly involves your wallet, the User Development Fee, or UDF. This is a brilliant piece of the puzzle. When you go online and book your flight ticket, this tax is quietly bundled right into the final price. This money doesn't go to the airline. It goes straight to the airport so they can maintain the terminal you're about to walk through. So you're quite literally paying the airport owner before you even pack your bags or arrive at the front doors. But here is the massive catch. You might think, with all these heavy planes landing and thousands of passengers paying fees, the airport is just swimming in profit from this alone, right? Well, no. Government caps severely limit this revenue. Governments actually step in and put a strict ceiling on these aeronautical charges. Why? Because if they didn't, airports could just charge whatever they wanted, airlines would pass that cost on, and everyday people wouldn't be able to afford to fly. Because of these strict limits, this visible, obvious income basically just barely covers the basic day-to-day survival expenses of running the airport. Now, what's really interesting here is how we can think about this. Think of that aeronautical revenue we just covered as basic household expenses. You know, it keeps the lights on and the runways paved, but it definitely doesn't make anyone filthy rich. The real cash cow? That would be non-aeronautical revenue. This right here is where the massive staggering profits actually come from. Which brings us to Section 2, the real profit game. If the airplanes themselves aren't making the airport rich, what is? Well, to understand this wealth, we've got to look directly at you, the passenger. The entire profit strategy hinges on something called dwell time. Think about your typical journey. You arrive, you check your bags, and you rush through the absolute stress of the security checkpoint. But once you're through that scanner, your stress drops, and suddenly you have 1 to 2 hours of absolutely free, unstructured time before your flight actually boards. Airports mathematically bank on this specific window of time. They have engineered the entire environment to monetize your boredom, your hunger, and your waiting. And why is it so incredibly easy to monetize you during this time? Because you, my friend, are a captive market. Seriously, once you pass through that security check, you are essentially in a beautifully decorated, locked cage. You can't just easily leave to go to a cheaper restaurant down the street. You have absolutely zero alternative options. You are legally and physically trapped in their specific retail ecosystem. And this brilliantly illustrates the result of that. Major international hubs, whether we're talking about Delhi, Mumbai, or Dubai, generate more than half of their total wealth by extracting money from that captive market through 4 main pillars. We're looking at concessions and rents, premium parking outside the terminal, high-end advertisements, and commercial real estate surrounding the airport. Let's circle back to that 250 rupee coffee we started with and look at the concessions model. The cafes, the gleaming duty-free shops, the perfume counters, they don't just pay a flat, fixed rent for their space. Nope.
On top of their rent, they are locked into agreements where they actually have to hand over 10 to 30% of every single sale directly back to the airport owner. So that cafe charging you a fortune isn't just being greedy, they're actively splitting your money with the airport. The airport takes a massive cut of everything you buy without ever brewing a single drop of coffee themselves. Then we have the parking lots outside. These operate at a staggering 80% profit margin. I mean, think about it. When you pay for premium parking at an airport, the operational cost for the airport is practically zero. The concrete is already poured, right? Because of that, almost every single rupee you feed into that parking machine is pure, unfiltered profit flowing straight to the bottom line. And we absolutely cannot forget about the massive digital hoardings and physical ads plastered everywhere. Why do massive global brands pay absolute crores for a billboard inside an airport? Because the airport is offering them direct access to the world's richest demographic. People who can afford to fly internationally are exactly the wealthy captive audience that luxury brands are desperate to reach. The airport is literally selling your attention for millions.
All right, let's switch gears. Section 3, Big Risks, Heavy Costs.
Now, hearing all of this, you might be thinking this sounds like a flawless license to print money. But actually, it isn't. Setting up this money-making machine is one of the biggest financial gambles on Earth. 10,000 to 30,000 crore rupees. That astronomical amount is the initial investment required just to pour the concrete and build the physical infrastructure of a new airport. Before you can charge a single airline a landing fee, before you can sell a single cup of coffee, you have to risk tens of thousands of crores just to build the terminals. So the crucial point is understanding the airport's absolute biggest vulnerability: fixed operational costs. These are massive expenses that are stubbornly constant. They honestly do not care if the airport is bustling with 100,000 passengers or if it's a super quiet Tuesday with only 10,000. These costs never, ever go away. Just look at what these unavoidable daily costs actually are. You've got to run continuous, massive air conditioning systems across millions of square feet. You have to pay the highly specialized salaries of air traffic controllers. You have to perform constant, nonstop runway maintenance so planes can land safely. If a pandemic hits or a massive global recession occurs, airlines can simply cancel their flights and ground their planes. But the airport owner, their daily, multi-million-dollar expenses absolutely do not stop. It is a terrifying level of exposure for sure.
And that brings us to Section 4, a legal monopoly.
So if the upfront costs are so terrifying and the fixed daily expenses can literally bankrupt you during a crisis, why are global investors, infrastructure firms, and billionaires still absolutely obsessed with buying and operating airports? Well, it's because of this undeniable reality. One city, one major airport, zero alternatives. Investors absolutely love this high-stakes model because, at its core, it operates as a legal monopoly. If an airline wants to fly into a major metropolitan hub, they have to use that one specific airport. If a citizen wants to fly out of their city, they have to go through those specific doors. There's no competition down the street. It's the ultimate bottleneck, and owning that bottleneck gives you unparalleled economic power over an entire city's travel. So I want to leave you with this provocative thought. We've seen how the business actually works. We've seen the brilliant blend of aeronautical survival and non-aeronautical extreme profit. We've seen the massive risks and the undeniable monopoly power. The next time you're killing time during your dwell time and you're reaching into your wallet to buy that ridiculously expensive coffee, will you see yourself as just a wary traveler, or will you finally see yourself as the ultimate captive market inside the world's most solid business model? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and remember to keep questioning the systems around you.